welcome to your new edition of your program. We are going to be talking about Africa, as you know. We are going to talk about the discoveries. We are going to talk about the people. We are going to talk about ourselves. We are going to talk about our culture. And it's a very good moment that I would like to share with you, because to talk about Africa is a privilege. For many years, we have been told that we were the dark continent. We were told that we couldn't do anything extra in Africa because we had to follow the others. It's time for us to know where we stand and make sure that the youths of today understand the message and that they can do better than the others, better than us today. For this edition, we are going to have a guest, as usual, and it's somebody who has been taking time to go about, study around the youths, and bring something to the youths, and that's very important, as you can know. So today we are going to have to watch the authors. We are going to go to music industry. We are going to have the movie and all what you can imagine. So stay tuned. I'd like to thank our guest for today, Mr. Kwyna. I think I said it very well. Yeah. He's going to give us a view of what he thinks a perfect Africa could be. Thanks for coming to our program today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us, as an African today, do you think that reading is important?
Oh, definitely. I think that the best readers today are the better leaders of tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So tell us, you grew up reading, I suppose.
Well, I grew up reading, but it wasn't really a culture of mine. I had to learn that as I grew up and discovered the importance of reading.
Okay, so tell us, which book was really like, gave the impact to your life?
As I was growing up, I read a bunch of novels and plays and poems as well. I'm a literary guy, so I love that. I remember Lionel Song's The Crown of Thorns. I equally remember Chinua Achebe's No Longer at Ease, Things Fall Apart. Aimé Césaire's Return to the Native Land. Those books that I read when I was young, they gave me a completely different view of Africa and African culture and African,
Tell us about the view. What was that view?
Well, for one thing, there is this strong respect for the elderly people, and there is this strong respect for your parents, which you find in those books. And the African institution, which is, our cultural values and all, how we dress, how we cook, they're found in those books. And that really made me to appreciate it. Even when I grew up, my dressing and what I eat often, had an impact, had a bearing with
do you think that those books can be some sort of revolutionary for Africa, or we should just read those books for the content?
I think books create an impact in the lives of those who read them. Like myself, when I read those books, that was a long time ago, but I can remember some phrases, some expressions that the authors use, which still have an impact in my life today. I can visualize the scenes, and so that has a bearing with how I live my life today, a positive impact in my life. So yes, when you read a book and you really pay attention to it, it has a bearing in your future.
So can we say that the project that you're carrying with you, SpellingBee, was inspired by reading?
Yes, we can say that for sure. Our kids today don't have the reading culture, unfortunately. We've lost it. We had it sometime, but we've lost it. And so, yes, the SpellingBee is geared to help kids get back to the reading culture, because any child who reads has a very wonderful and rich vocabulary, which influences their reading, influences their writing, their speaking, and every other aspect of their communication.
That is a project which we are going to talk about, and he's going to give you info, because it's not a project for this year only. It's not a project of last year. It's a project which has to continue and has to be invested by all parents so that the kids should follow. So you are going to have the info for this year and the coming years. But for now, we are going to get to the author for this edition. She's no other than Olivia Hervey. I invite you to discover her world, the way she presents Africa to us. Thank you. Olivia Hervey in this novel tells us the end might be a good one, but you need to go through to have the answer. Ma vie sans elle, chronique d'une mort annoncée, creating one a feeling of alert. We figure out it's a story full of intrigue and drama, psychological as well as physical. Vincent, the center of all actions, is faced with the problems we face in our daily lives. A secret is always well hidden, but pushes us to the extremes, mixture of fiction and realities. A book where promises of love and beauty are made, a world full of intense love, be it between couples, families, and friends. All Afrikultures suggests is for you to get a copy of the Cameroonian author Olivia Hervey's latest novel and discover the world full of promises. That was Olivia Hervey. As you understand, in Africa, we have to read every book which concerns our brothers. We have to know the contents. At that time, you can decide whether you like it or not. So tell us, do you have an advice to a young person today who has difficulties to read?
Definitely. I think reading is the foundation of communication. For a richer vocabulary and for you being able to express yourself fluently, you've got to read because you speak with vocabulary and you can only get that from reading books. So let's try to read. For you who are watching out there, try to get books that have a simpler vocabulary for a start with a smaller size, and you can read that and then try to get bigger books with larger volume, and then it becomes a habit for you and you realize that you're just amazing.
I think that the girls, they're enjoying what you're saying. I think the kids are enjoying what you're saying, and they will like speak like you later, because today we like to have a better way to express ourselves, because the better you express yourself, the more you integrate with others.
Exactly.
So that's what we are doing on Afrikultures. We take the people who are just like a reference for you to follow them and ask out the questions. So you have the number which is under the screen where you can meet us, ask questions. You can come over to be in contact with Caleb and do more with us. That's the aim of our program, joining Africans together. So right now we are going to get into the world of galleries. In the gallery we talk about works of art. Can you tell us, have you ever been to a museum?
Yes, I've been to I've been to a maritime museum just here in Douala.
Yeah.
There is a time I traveled to the northwest and I went to the Fondom of Bafut.
Yes.
And yeah, they have an amazing museum there with lots of artifacts dating back colonial period and lots of traditional stuff.
Did you feel any link with those works of art?
I think it, I could link it to the history of the country, with colonialism. We looked at the war, the First World War. I saw a cannon there, which was in that palace. And I saw the swords that were used in those days by our forefathers to fight the wars, intertribal wars and stuff. And quickly, my history notes could come back to me, and I could just see the whole thing.
This is what they
right
said.
There, exactly.
So, do you think that Africans have great contact with it, or you feel that we don't care about our museums?
I think perhaps something has to be done to it. I don't know how many people visit that museum. That's the truth. But it should be brought to the limelight. People should be able to have access to go there, and then a museum guide should be there to be able to explain to them what those artifacts mean, how they're related to the culture.
So actually you're trying to tell us that you got inside and there was no guide.
Oh, there was a guide. With the permission of the chief, we got in there. He gave us, someone, I think it was one of his sons. That was like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I can't remember. And he was able to explain to us, we went around the museum. And
I would like to have more guides. That's what
there should be.
And I should be more open.
Yes, and I think, it should, excuse me, it should be something that, people are invited to come and, come to the museum. Just like what's here in Douala. The Maritime Museum does a little advertising for people to come and then watch it and then see what's it. So that's what should be done. And I'm sure it's not just in the Fondom of Bafut. There are other Fondoms, in the grass field that have wonderful artifacts that people should discover and get to know the history of, the place.
Okay, that is good to know, because in Africa we have a big problem, is that the Africans don't know the value of what they owe. And at that time we see our goods are traveling around the world and we are just there like victims, finally. And when they still come over, we still have those youths who don't understand the importance and the place of those artifacts and sell them out at very cheap prices.
Yeah.
And today we have a big problem is that even you get to Egypt, they can't take back certain of statues that they took from their museum. There are many other things with Cleopatra and they can't get it back. So we have to talk about it to the youth. We have to push the youth to understand the importance and the place it has to play in our lives. And that's why we have this Gary. And for this edition, we are going to get straight to Ghana to know more about this particular mask.
Ghana and Liberia connect with the Way mask, a tribal art inherited by the Gweri and Wobe. Way meaning men who easily forgive. The masks are owned by families inherited from elders. The mask most of the time stands as symbol for rituals such as circumcision, social status, and entertainment. The mask usually looks aggressive with a wide open mouth and huge eyes open with an expression of horror, having a triangular large nose.
And that was something very important to understand because the mask has a role. Maybe today we have killed the spiritual part of it, but it plays a role in our lives. It's part of us. It's our culture. And when you get to Asia, you will get to India, you see the respect they have for their works of art. You understand that Africa has a lot to gain from that. Right now, we are going to get into the world of fashion. As usual, we are going to talk about the beauty of what the designers in Africa are ready to do. So tell us, for example, Caleb, have you ever been to a fashion parade?
No, not really. I can't remember.
Why? Yeah, I think even in Douala there are fashion parades.
Yeah, that's true, but I'm not really I don't go the fashion thing.
But I'll tell you one thing. When you see Caleb, he's always changing the style, always working on his appearance. So it means that you have a designer or you have a particular style that you have for yourself.
I'd like to create my own designs.
You see, he's a designer.
So when I do it, I have someone who brings it out for me.
Yes.
here in Cameroon. So but I don't like to follow after fashion like the latest on the market and all of that. No, I don't. I like to do something unique, something that's different, something that looks like me. And yeah.
So you don't have a particular, how can I say, creator, designer that if today your chance to meet his design somewhere, you're ready to pay an amount to have it up? African designer, for example.
African designer. Because I don't go to the shows, I don't really know a lot of them. But I have a friend of mine who's he's waxing up, Lloyd Design. He does most of my suits and my African outfits.
He's based here in Douala?
He's based here in Douala. He's in Bundaberry actually. He's a good friend of mine. Lloyd Design. Lloyd Fashion House, actually.
Okay, Lloyd Fashion House. We are waiting for you here to come and tell us the secret. Because he says he doesn't go to fashion parades. He's with you, but he has never gone to a fashion parade, and he's your customer. So you have to work on it. Lloyd Fashion, we are waiting for you over here. So tell us, how do you decide? Maybe you draw it yourself? Or
yeah, usually I draw it myself, or I look at some visuals online, and I try to combine African fabric with a few other designs. And then what the good thing with Lloyd is once I give it to him, he just produces it.
He understands it.
He understands it.
That is great. And for this edition, we are going to take you into the world of fashion parade.
Okay.
You have never been to one, but this one is a particular one because we went to Prague. And in Prague, there's a fashion week dedicated to Africans. So you can imagine that Africans are already celebrated out there. So we are going to take some minutes to watch how it went on in Prague. We had Adama de Paris, we had Eva Gabara from Senegal, and there are two designers from Cameroon. I'll not give their names, you're going to see them. They went to Prague and they had this fashion parade dedicated to African designers. So I invite you and the public out there to discover how it was so beautiful over there. Is the podium for this edition. That was a good time. You saw the models, everybody enjoyed. It was a fashion week dedicated to Africa, and all of them, they came together, and I think that it has been going on. It's just a way to show to you that you can be in Africa and produce for Africa and enjoy as Africans, and that's very important. So you were telling me something about the industry, something which you think is disturbing the industry.
Well, I think that most Africans or Cameroonians don't dress African. If you go out in the street, you can count how many people are wearing an African fabric and how many are wearing a shirt, a tie, a suit, or something like that. And I think it's because used clothing, which is imported from Europe, is far cheaper than African outfit. And that kills the whole sewing industry and design industry, because people don't have a lot of customers who come to design clothes from them. If you look at a country like Nigeria, for example, they don't import used clothing. They either import brand new clothes which you can buy, or you get the African print, and so people, designers and tailors who are there, make a lot of money out of their trade. So perhaps if we could focus on our African fabrics and empower the tailors and the designers, and then we limit how much we import from Europe.
Yeah, I think with the case of coronavirus, which is out there, is going to have a huge fall. It's not going to be only negative, but there are going to be positive aspects concerning that, because right now what is going to come, we don't know whether it's infected or not. So automatically we have to check on those things before. So the best thing now is to wear your African fabric. It's not that we are trying to kill the other market, it's a reality. So right now I would like us to get into the world of the artist. We are first going to go and discover something. It's a lady from Uganda who has been a DJ. You know what is a DJ?
Yeah, a disc joker.
Yes, and she has been doing things around the world. I had these images from BBC, but I was contacted by one of our guests he's in Namibia, and he told me, Tessa, this is something you have to show. This is a young African girl who is doing great things for Africa. So we are going to see what BBC did as report on her, and we think that it's very important to understand that art is the key to success on our continent. Watch it out.
Hi, I'm Kampire. I'm a DJ and an artist from Uganda. I play like St. Lucian soca, a lot of kuduro, some gom, a lot of like East African sukus and benga. Basically anything African and electronic that like makes you want to dance. DJing has taken me to a lot of unexpected places, to Japan, China, to Mexico, some really huge festivals in Europe, Sonar and Dur, a lot of like underground club festivals that you wouldn't necessarily expect a random girl from Uganda to be playing at. The track that I love to drop on the dance floor is an edit that I made with a friend of a song called Zankalewa, which is a really old song from I think the 70s or the 80s by a band called Golden Sounds, and we just remixed it a little bit to make it dance floor ready. But it's the kind of song that like takes people back to their childhood, that's unexpected, but that really is incredible to dance to. So whenever I drop it on the dance floor, people really get into it. I listen to everything. I'm specifically interested in music from the African diaspora, and now that I'm touring, I feel sort of a responsibility to represent East African music. It's great that like Afrobeats is sort of taking over the world, but it also opens doors for people who are doing something a bit more left field. Underground African artists and producers are getting recognized and also getting booked to play. I feel really lucky to be a part of this scene. I'm really privileged in that I've traveled before and I have a certain level of education, but even for me, like getting visas can be really difficult and really expensive. So I really love to see it get easier for artists from the continent to travel and to represent themselves, and for more people to come and understand the context here and sort of visit the festivals here, like Kilifi New Year or Nyege Nyege, and come see what it's like, because I think there's still a lot of like ignorance about what life in Africa really is.
And that was it. We have to share all what we discover positive about Africa, because we have noticed that when you talk of Africa, you just know about the sad things happening. We discover that in Africa we die of hunger, in Africa we are suffering, in Africa there is hell all the time, and that's why today the youths are leaving our continent. They're ready to die at sea because they think that there is nothing good in Africa. No, you have to believe in yourself and look for the right space for you, and that's why we have our guest today, Caleb. I would like to ask you, what is music for you? When you hear music, when you think music, what does it really mean for you?
Music is a way of life. I mean, it's like food for your soul. It's deeper than just the sound. It's more of the lyrics and the message, and you know, it can make you transcend boundaries, and that's music for me.
So tell me, African music today, if they ask you to play some African music, which side are you going to look at?
I like a variety, actually. I play music from all around Africa, Cameroon, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, you know, all those other African. I love the rhythm, I love the beat, I love the lyric, and the message especially that goes with it.
Would you like to tell us an evaluation? Was the music that you grew up with the same or better or worse with what you are listening today?
I wouldn't say that. Music today is not what it used to be before. Artists in the 60s and 70s and you know the 80s when we were growing up, their lyric had a lot of meaning. They took time to write it down, and the message they were passing on had a lot of impact in the lives of those who listened to it. But music today has become just rattle and bantle here and there, and you know, people just think they can just write things up and put a beat to it and then make people dance.
So you think that today is having a negative impact on the youths?
Some of them have a positive impact, but the majority, for me, is, you know, it's not worth it.
So when I'm hearing SpellingBee, the project, I hear it musical.
Yeah.
I think the sounding is musical. Do we have a vision of music behind the project?
We have a couple of artists who are interested in the project, and they are accompanying the bee as it's moving on. We'll have some of them sing during the finals in May, which will take place here in Douala, between spellers from Yaoundé and spellers from Douala who will come together. So there are a couple of artists who see the pedagogic side of it, you know, and they would like to, you know, sing for the kids and for the parents and the guests that will be there on that day. Yeah, so yeah, there is a link between the two of that. Okay,
it's good always to check around, because you will discover that art is in everything that we do. Even in politics, art is there, because even to lie, you have to use a method. There's the arts of lying also, and arts of culture and all the like. For this edition, we are going to go straight to Senegal, because there's a lady that I would like us to discover or rediscover. And what you know about Viviane today is not the same, and that's why we would like to present to you the new version of Viviane, who is Chidit now and used to be Ndu. So watch it and meet us just after that.
Nena dafa amana te yorun jagunana. Nena dafa amana te yorun jagunana. Mana nyodi bëgg jaay graw te yorulo nada. Mana goni bëgg jaay graw te yorulo nada. Nena yorna ndeke yorulu sukar kafe parada. Muy kalpem di posam leppam xoteku. Luffy John matunenga yonge. Dodara. 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 Nyata yonge jël alalam te fayobo. Nyata yonge dik bayek meri ñu aji di maka. Te defo ci dara. Ñun gisuñu dara. Ndeke yow du dara. Nena dafa amana. Te yorul njëgu nana. Nena dafa amana. Te yorul njëgu nana. Mën nañoo di bëgg jaay graw. Te yow yoruloo nada. Mën na gondi bëgg jaay graw. Te yoruloo nada. Nena yor na. Ndeke yorulu suukar kafe parada. Muy kalpem di posam léppam xoteeku. Lekkulo de nanulo sanelaw de matunenga yonge. Di foye sa xel bi moo lay sonal. Góor su ne war nga jom. Di dëkkalu yomb. Lu fi jaar ngay waane. Jom ba jàmbur si jigéen la manul. Soo tëddee doo nelaw. Duni nga bëgg a dundee. Duni nga bëgg a dundee. Kii toj na koñ ba. Ndeke yoroo lu suukar kafe parada. Muy kalpem di posam léppam xoteeku. Lekkulo de nanulo sanelaw de matunenga yonge. Dodara. Dodara. Dodara.
And that was Senegal. Yes, that was Viviane. I really enjoyed the lady all the time. She's just like, I can compare her to the Grasdeka of Senegal. We have our Grasdeka here in Cameroon, and it's a great moment for Africa because we have our references in the musical sector. I would like to get back to you and talk about the movie industry. Have you
Okay.
ever thought of acting?
Yeah. That was a long time ago.
Okay, tell us, if today you had a chance to watch a movie, would it be a Cameroonian movie or would it be another African movie?
I watch a wide range of movies. I watch Cameroonian movies. Recently, Cameroonians have been doing something that is plausible. So I watch those movies. I watch African movies in general.
Why
and,
plausible?
before it wasn't that. You know, unfortunately, we've been used to quality from the US and the UK and other places. So when we do movies here, unknowingly, we compare it to what we,
No.
But now, Africans and Cameroonians are trying to meet up, and write good stories and, nice plots and get good actors to come up with. So yeah, it's becoming interesting and I'm watching them.
I'm having a great occasion today.
Mhm.
You're there, and there was a question which went viral once by a friend on Facebook. She asked the public that why do Cameroonians keep their Cameroonian way of talking when they do movies, that they should forget about the way they are speaking. I don't know whether she was trying to say that they should change
The accent or
yes,
something?
Yes. So what do you think about that aspect? Is it important for us who are maybe actors, and if we have a particular way of talking, do we keep it or do we have to change it?
I think it all depends on the context we're in. If you're doing a typical African cultural film, a village setting, you wouldn't speak the way I'm speaking right now. You would speak the African way, because if we are trying to represent a time in history of Africa we didn't have the tongue we have right now. We had the African tongue, we spoke our mother tongue, and even if we spoke English or French, it wasn't like this. Now, if you're trying to showcase a movie that's in the modern world, for example, a movie in Douala or something, you will meet, it's just realistic that you find people who speak current and fluent English or French. So it depends on the context. In an African setting, if you're showcasing an African movie, a traditional one, then the accent doesn't have to be the, you know, the European type.
But the thing is, today, when we follow movies from maybe Burkina Faso,
Yes.
they keep their tone. You follow a movie maybe from, let's get to even Nigeria. It's just when they have their modern movies.
Of course.
But do you feel that us Cameroonians, we need to lose that aspect? Because a guy who usually speaks his Bakwere, you know, he's having his tone when you hear him. Like when Emmanuel Bivika is talking his, you know, sometimes when he speaks in English, you have the impression that it is the rhythm of that dialect that he's speaking out. Do you think we have to lose it at a time, or you should keep it as our identity even in the movie industry?
I don't think we're losing it. Like I said, if we want to showcase that in a movie, we can, depending on the movie we're trying to come up with. But if it's a modern thing, then I don't know someone who would sit in a movie that shows fast cars and hotels and stuff and you're speaking some crazy English. I wouldn't sit to watch that. But if we're in a village setting with people in native outfit and those caps and working with their, you know, their staff and all of that, and then you start speaking English, it's weird, you know, because you wouldn't come up with how do you call these things that our parents use? Proverbs. You can't bring out a proverbs with my forefathers used to. It doesn't make sense. But if you bring that out in the native, you know, tongue, it has a lot of effect.
What is making me to laugh is that you brought me back to those Nigerian movies where we have the stories back in the village. The guy pretends he's coming back from the US, and in the middle of the villagers, the guy is speaking American wonders. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will invite you to discover the movie we have for you, the trailer that we have for you. It's one of our guests who was here, Mr. Ashu Egbe, and we promised to show his trailer, and we are reminding you that it is already on Amazon. We're inviting you to get to Amazon and type out the movie Maale, Maale, to discover what it is or buy the content, because it's very important to encourage each and every African who does something which is really beautiful. For you to go and check, we'll first give you a vision of the trailer. Watch it and meet us just after that.
Where is my money from the last supply?
Are you threatening me?
This collaboration no longer benefits me.
Don't even think about it.
Une espèce qui disparaît, tu vois, cause un grave problème à l'écosystème.
You will land yourself in jail sooner than you think.
We'll find out soon. I am an elected official.
You have cancer.
The government is putting in even more effort to fight poaching and wildlife trafficking.
With you politicians, there's always a way.
Dans tout ce qui t'intéresse, c'est seulement l'argent. Tu ne penses pas aux animaux qui meurent tous les jours en forêt.
I'm also wanted by the police.
How could a patient leave this clinic without being spotted?
Honorable. Go ahead. I have to correct all my wrongs before I die.
You are under arrest for trafficking of protected animal species. You have the right to remain silent. For anything you say may be used against you in a court of law.
But things are also changing in the forest. Elephants are becoming rare.
And that's it. We told you, get to Amazon and look at this movie. You can buy the movie or you can simply appreciate the movie. It's a Cameroonian production. It is Ashu Egbe Productions. He was here with us and we discovered his world. And we hope that very soon we'll get to know more with what you're organizing. Tell us, when is it going to be and how is it going to go on?
Oh, the Spelling Bee, it's going to take place in April, 22nd and 23rd here in Douala, and then 29th and 30th in Yaoundé.
How is the process?
It's been going on since October. Schools have been enrolling, and then we've had series of training sessions with the coaches who have to train their spellers. And then next week on Wednesday, we're going to have another coaching session with the spellers. That's going to take place at the American School of Douala. And then the next day on Thursday, we'll be in Yaoundé to train the spellers in Yaoundé at Pinnacle of Success Academy.
Tell us, is it the first edition, the second? How did it
This
come?
is the 7th edition of the Spelling Bee, but this is the first time we're having an interregional Spelling Bee. So Yaoundé and Douala coming together, and then we're going to have a finals, which will take place in May.
What is the idea behind? Because we know it's an American thing which has been going on. How did you involve it with Cameroon?
Okay, the Spelling Bee is a concept that was brought in by the U.S. Embassy. It was an English language outreach program, and the whole concept was to encourage reading and speaking and writing of English language, and to help kids to have a world of English language vocabulary. Now, after running the project for some time, the embassy got us trained, and then we took over the project. It used to be called the U.S. Embassy Spelling Bee. Now it's called the Cameroon National Spelling Bee. Now, when we took over it, we added public speaking skills and leadership skills and working in a team, which is lacking in most of our schools. So we train the spellers who will participate in the contest how to speak in public, how to develop their potential, public speaking skills, leadership skills as well. So the training goes on for like 5 months, and then they get ready for the contest, and then they compete for the interregional and then the finals.
That's very interesting because on Afrikultures, the aim is to push the youths to become really leaders and also to decide for themselves. And we are going to get into the world of the agenda for this edition and to see what happened. It's a project which has been brought by Afrikultures, the 2nd edition, really going with what you're talking about. And the idea behind is to promote and push the youth to be able to write books very early. What do you think about the idea? I think in other countries it's already done.
Yeah.
But it's only in Africa that we are taking time.
That's an awesome idea, for real. I would say in some schools where I have thought the idea of writing books already has started, but it's not a global thing. In our public schools, I'm not sure we have that. So that would be something really wonderful to have kids start writing books while they're very young.
So the first part, which was initiated by Afrikultures, you're not surprised, is the program. Afrikultures is not a new one, so the idea was to make the youths understand that they can write their stories, because we are told that what you live in your life can make the bestseller of tomorrow.
Exactly.
And we have been seeing it with the Americans, with all the others. Why not from Africa? So the first step is to take the children and make them discover the world of editors. They should understand that you can sit in the house and write out your story the way you like it. But tomorrow you can go to an editor and the editor can decide of the contents, adjust it, and whatever your age, make you a rich person. Because in Africa we talk about being rich and all the like. There are so many ways, and normally honest ways. So we have this project which was concluded some time ago, the 2nd edition. It was in Bonaberry, where we had to give out books to a particular school, the school which participated to this edition. So ladies and gentlemen, watch out. It is Afrikultures Trade Fair, the 2nd edition, how it went, what we did, and what we expect for the next edition.
second edition of Afrikultures Trade Fair took place and was full of colors and diversity, as it was for the ever first edition in 2017 under the patronage of the Regional Delegate of Culture for the Littoral. Children came up in numbers to discover the world of authors and the reason why they have to read. This edition, storytelling was brought to light. How could storytelling be a better way to exchange with our youth? The second edition went on 3 days, giving the opportunity to editors to present and sensitize the young generation on how they can enhance their future and develop their well-being through books. Afrikultures Trade Fair had as special guest for this edition the private school from Bonaberry, Collège de l'Unité. As it was noticed during the event that the children needed more for their distraction as well as education. Afrikultures Trade Fair is an action which aims at making the young African child to get into the world of reading with more passion as well as writing their own stories. The idea being of making every young African believe he was not born to fail, but to use every circumstance of life to better their future. The third edition, already boiling.
Yes, every project has to be geared towards making our youth happy, and that's what we are doing. We are preparing the third edition. We hope that we are going to have you with us. We are going to talk to the youth. We are going to make them to read. We are going to make them write about themselves. So tell us, how is it particular with Spelling Bee at the end of the competition?
Well, we offer books to kids, plain out textbooks, and we advise them to write their everyday dealings. So it's like a kind of diary for them. And when we meet during training sessions with them, we get to examine what they've written, try to have some motivational speakers and some guidance to be around with them and help them to see how they can get that into a story.
Okay.
So during the training session, which we're going to have next week, Wednesday and Thursday, we have a bunch of motivational speakers who will be there. We have some pedagogues who will be there as well, and some writers. One of a very good friend of mine, Jesse Happy, he's a writer and a philanthropist, is going to be there, and he's going to be talking to the kids how they can become one.
That's very good. We'd like to have him here on Afrikultures.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Everybody who is inspiring, everybody who can give something to the public is awaited here, because we have to talk of a positive Africa to the Africans. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to make a discovery for this edition. Maybe you already know, or others, they don't know about it. We are going to see the steps of Ambasibe. It's a dance from the Sawa people.
Yeah, I like it.
Let's watch it. It's the discovery for this edition. I hope that you enjoyed the rhythm. It's a discovery all the time. If you have things that you want to propose, if you have ideas that you think can be featuring with us here, don't hesitate. You have the contact which is under the screen. Get to us. So we are going to conclude right now. Tell us, do you have a message for the youths out there who actually are going through maybe hell or think that Africa is not a place to be?
Well, if you're watching us right now, I would say that it's not always about going to Europe or something like that. You can do what you can do right here in Africa. All you have to do is be consistent with whatever project you have. To think big is very important for you to dream and to think. Look at around your environment, look at the problems that your people are facing, look at what solutions you can bring to it, because what actually makes you succeed is solving a problem in your community. So if you can solve a problem in your community, then you can impact your community positively, and that's how you get appreciated and you get to make some money.
Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for your time. We know how busy you are for this project.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tessa Banks. I'll tell you that Africa is where you have to be. You were born in Africa. It's not because it was something that happened. No, it's because you have something you have to bring to this community. So stick with us and let's make things come true. I'm your host, and I hope that for the next edition, you're going to be there because we have so much to share together. Take care. Bye-bye.